Van Jones also had thoughts on the elections last night. He is the closest thing that these panels will have to a progressive, and yet he agrees with them on basically everything. Anyway, here is some of Van Jones' commentary.
This is a big deal. These numbers are bad. This is not these are our voters. These are voters that came to us in 2018, came to us in 2020, and have abandoned us in droves in 2 states that should be in our column. That's a big deal. That is a 5-alarm fire. And I think that, look, I hope we can pass these big bills. Bill Clinton was able to turn his ship around and survive after the judicial hacking in 94 by doing a lot of small stuff that just lets you know he was on your side. He was talking about school uniforms. Yeah. He was talking about V-chips he was talking about all kinds. But you know what? For ordinary folks, that guy cares about me. That guy understands what I'm going through. If this party doesn't wake up tomorrow morning and figure out how can we run back to regular folks and regular folks' issues. Now, some stuff we've been talking about is good stuff. Helping grandmas, helping kids, but it's been buried, it's been lost in this cold, big DC conversation about trillions of dollars.
Okay, I'm gonna try to be brief because we're running out of time, unfortunately. So they were elected in 2020. Biden actually won, and the Senate was given the Democrats. Why was that done? So that they could say, hey, we're gonna talk a little bit about school uniforms. Is that why we think that they were put in office? Maybe it was for the promises that they made. Maybe it was a repudiation of what the Republicans had been doing, which is nothing that helps regular people. But we've totally forgot about that. We're not gonna think about it. And we're gonna toss up the possibility, well, I hope that they get the big bills done, but he should really triangulate around these incredibly minor things. No one on that panel is talking at all about how wildly popular the components of the Build Back Better bill actually are. They are trying to figure out, racking their brains, how is it that McAuliffe didn't win? Why would there be a strike back against the Democrats when nothing has been done? And there are all these popular things that they said they'd do. We want them to do them. They're not doing those things. I have no idea. Maybe it's more triangulation. Maybe he should play the saxophone on Montel Williams. I don't know. What are you talking about? And by the way, again, Van Jones, who is the most progressive of all of them, at the end of the day, the progressive part of him is, I hope they do it. But his lesson is do small things. It is, at the end of the day, fairly indistinguishable from Jake Tapper, which is do not dream big, don't make any more promises, don't fulfill the promises that you've actually made, do incredibly small amounts of stuff like you've been doing this year, and somehow you'll win, whereas you just lost with the strategy that I'm now articulating.
Well, that's the point. No, it's an
It was Arsenio Hall. It wasn't Montel Williams. I apologize. It was like 30 years ago. It was before my time.
It was more fun than it was Montel Williams. I knew.
Sorry.
I'd rather go with Montel. Anyways, so this is an illustration from Van Jones's point of view. This is an illustration of the Democratic approach to appealing to voters. It's not to do anything for them. It's to do little things that don't mean anything that look like you're doing something for them.
Yeah.
They keep saying it out loud, and it's the worst strategy. Now, maybe us idiot progressive pundits over here will say, hey, they're ignoring actual things that American people want, and they're giving us nothing. And then, it kind of gets heard by a few people, but the folks doing it don't realize how damning of an argument that is. We gotta do some things like Bill Clinton starts talking about school uniforms. What does that do for people who can't afford to make sure that their kids in those school uniforms eat while they're there? Like, these are the actual issues with America, and sweeping changes are just way too radical. But Republicans have no problem doing huge sweeping changes that actually people don't want. We have problems doing sweeping changes that people do want. And it's a party of doing as little as possible to stay in power. And also, by the way, the mischaracterization that the Senate was given to Democrats. Oh my God, the House was given to Democrats. Oh my God, and the president is given to Democrats. Point out why that Senate isn't doing anything for Democrats. Point it out. If it's been given to us, why hasn't it been fulfilled? What are those two main reasons that you won't utter?
100%. Yeah. It's just, look, they're not interested in producing an accurate understanding of why what happened. They're there to deliver the same one that they always do. If the Dems win, you need more moderates. If the Dems lose, you need more moderates. If the Dems win, you shouldn't do anything. You wouldn't want to overstep. If they lose, you should bounce back by not doing anything. It is always the same message. And you should be incredibly suspicious of people who always think the exact same thing is right for literally every situation and won't even try to ground that argument in the very available public polling that we have. We literally have polls that tell you what people want, and those are not a part of this conversation about trying to figure out what voters want. Doesn't that seem a little bit weird? A little bit suspicious? They could even use their own polls. CNN does polls and they won't even use those. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.